Hi Leo, welcome to your prosperity forecast for the period from April 1st to July 1st, 2017. It's Raina here, and so what I'm going to be doing is my typical spread, but the focus will just be on prosperity. I did this before, and I just happened to be looking through my videos and discovered that the last period of time ended at the end of March. So I realized it was time to do my new ones, a new batch of prosperity readings. And also, I wanted to say, because I'm not sure, I haven't watched them again, but I do believe I mentioned astrology in those, and I'm not going to do that. I do prefer to do those in private readings where I have the actual person's time of birth to be more accurate, because it really does depend upon what your degree of sun or rising when it comes to transits. And for these general readings, it's just so hard to do. But what was the other thing I was going to say? I'm also going to be reading a very brief excerpt from a book called The Dynamic Laws of Prosperity by Catherine Ponder. So first I'll lay out the cards, and then I'll just read the quote very briefly. I picked an extra card for your outcome because of the nature of the Nine of Swords. It's really not the kind of card to end a reading with. Not because, oh, it's so terrible or anything, even though it's not like a positive card, but it also is not a card of resolution to me. So that's why I pick another card. Okay. This is what I'm going to read from The Dynamic Laws of Prosperity. As you develop your genius powers, you may seem to be listening at times to that different drummer of whom Henry David Thoreau wrote, "I have always had a highly developed intuitive nature, and it often confused me because I did not understand it. I had been given the impression that if I ever obeyed it, I was being strange, eccentric, even abnormal. Often as a child, I could not explain to other people what it was or why I felt compelled at times to follow its promptings. I found, on the other hand, that if I did not obey the hunch, inner prompting, or sixth sense idea that persisted, my world became confused and unhappy. I discovered that when I followed my hunches faithfully, I was inevitably led to the right result. You will find on looking over the people in your midst who have been baptized with originality that they have let the world's thinking alone, and so creative new knowledge has been free to express through them. The world needs this kind of original thought in this exciting progressive era in which we now live." And this book was actually written in 1962. From a prosperity standpoint, people have not known what to do with their genius powers of intuition and creative imagination. Those who develop that inner feeling or knowing that flashes to all of us at times, were usually considered odd or abnormal by their business associates if they expressed rather than suppressed it. Most of us were taught not to take such people seriously. However, in this enlightened age, we are beginning to realize that while we are humanly equipped with 5 physical senses as mental and spiritual beings, we are born with powers of the mind that are little recognized and little used. It is these unexplored faculties of the mind that seem to have genius power for producing prosperous, successful living. I'm just going to leave it there. And that, I feel that that's very true. I get a lot of clients who, when I look at their charts, they seem to have just natural, innate psychic ability. And sometimes I'm thinking to myself, they should be doing that for a living. They could be mediums, they could be psychics, but they may not feel that it's even a big deal because they may have been discouraged from it from their families or their culture, just the people around them, or they take it for granted because it's always been there. So it's something that if you're trying to decide what to do with your life, the first thing is to tap into your higher self by being still. There's a saying, be still and know, and getting quiet with yourself, not seeking other people's opinions of what you should do, but trying to tune into yourself and see what comes up, because you'll be amazed at what kind of ideas you can get. So the overall theme is the Eight of Cups during this 90-day period. You may be feeling like you want to leave whatever is going on with you. Maybe you have done it. And the reason isn't because of wanting more money or wanting a fancier title or wanting more power. It's because you do not feel connected to the work that you're doing. And that is causing you to kind of just leave your current place of employment. Now, this could also just be in general in your life. You may be going through kind of a transformation, and you may decide that you're trying to seek some kind of higher way of living. So this can actually be a card of a spiritual journey. Boy, everything got quiet all of a sudden. That sure is nice. As soon as I started the reading, it was like all this stuff. So I wonder if that's true for some of you already, even though I'm filming this in March. In the past position, we have the Two of Cups. This can indicate reuniting with someone, and I actually think either, you have a business partner or you go back to a company that you were working for before. And so what I think happened was you probably did that, and then you were like, nah, this is not happening. One of the things that I find with personal relationships is that a lot of people who have been left by their partner will say, when will he come back, or when will she come back? And they just think that the answer to all their problems is the other person coming back. And I always say, well, what will change if the person does come back? What's going to change? And I think a lot of times people don't know because they're so focused on getting that person back that they're not thinking in terms of why the person left in the first place. So the same thing applies for this situation. If you have been in a situation where you left a company and then you get an offer to come back and you come back, has anything really changed? I remember I quit a job and I really wanted to come back because I felt like it would be under different circumstances with the same person not being the manager. And then and it never worked out in the outer world, but eventually it dawned on me that I could not recreate what I had had at that moment that I felt compelled to quit the first time. So I felt like it was such a loss. I felt like I was coerced to quit. But in retrospect, I realized that if I tried to go back to that situation, I wasn't the same person. And so it was actually a very healing realization, because sometimes we idealize a situation we've been in, and we forget that we've grown since then, and we're no longer the same person we were in that situation. And maybe it was wonderful to be in that particular job for that period of time, but if you were to try to make it happen again, it just would not be the same, because you're not the same. And what's coming in is the Five of Pentacles. I think in this case, the Five of Pentacles are those thoughts of lack consciousness that plague people from time to time. Sometimes when they've made great life changes, or if you haven't left, if you want to be that person that leaves. So if you are dragging your feet about leaving a particular job because you're afraid that you're not going to have the money to sustain yourself, because the Five of Pentacles can indicate fluctuating finances, and for a Leo as a fixed sign, you may be afraid of rocking the boat when it comes to your finances, when it comes to anything like that. So you may be staying in a place so that you have that sense of continuity, or I would say the known quantity. And, you know, they say the devil you know. Well, the devil you know is still a devil. And really, there's a difference between recklessness, where you're just like making rash decisions and not thinking about anything past this moment, and doing so out of anger or doing so out of spite, and really coming to terms with how you feel, how being in this situation is making you feel. Maybe you feel like drained from this particular job. Maybe you feel that you're just going through the motions. And yes, in prior generations, we didn't have the luxury of people sitting around and wondering how they felt about something. It was more of the first chakra of survival. But this is what it means when we talk about ascension, and when we talk about just the evolution of the human spirit, is that it's not enough anymore just to survive. We've been there and done that, and we're looking for meaning. And if we can't find it where we are, you know, the clock is ticking down. This too shall pass, and I'm talking about this lifetime. So it's great. Okay, you have a steady paycheck. Okay, well, you may have a steady paycheck, but do you feel alive? Or do you feel like you're just a zombie and you're just going through the motions? It depends. You know, every person's going to be different. The higher perspective is the Nine of Pentacles. This can be, this can have different interpretations. For some people, if you're a single parent, you may be saying, but I have only one income and I have to take care of my children. And then that means that although you may want to go, you can't do so quite yet. In those types of situations, perhaps there's something else you can do. Maybe you can start your own business on the side. Maybe that will give you enough of a zest for living that you can tolerate a job that doesn't really do it for you anymore, that you don't feel like your heart's, into it. And, for some people, it's just a question of the passion is gone. And as a fire sign, passion is very important to you. But if it's not a toxic environment, if it's not an environment that really makes you feel anything other than lethargic, maybe you will tolerate it for a higher purpose, for the time being at least. The Nine of Pentacles can mean for some people that this sense of being able to support themselves, maybe you don't even have children, but you have this self-esteem from doing this particular job on the financial level, that it's worth whatever lack of emotional fulfillment it provides you. But for still others, it could be saying that you're always provided for by the universe. You're always this person. You don't ever have to fear not being that person. The card that challenges you is the Nine of Cups, which even in the challenge position is still a very positive card. There may be issues of overindulgence, and this can even be on the material level. So this could be saying that desire which Leos have of living large could be playing into your reason for staying in a place that is not connecting with you on a soul level. And this has to be tamed in order for you to be able to, I was going to say live within your means, but that probably sounds horrifying to the average Leo. I don't mean it that you have to have a begging bowl and take it that and have a loincloth. I mean that you can find a happy medium. And really, when you feel fulfilled, I think that the material side of life is always less important. That it sustains you. You know, it's like the spiritual food sustains you. Even when you're still, I'm not saying that you shouldn't be able to make a nice living, but I feel like a lot of people turn to excessive consumption of whatever because they don't have a feeling of fulfillment inside. It's just like even overeating can be part of that. People try to fill the void, and they do so in different ways. This, in the challenge position, can even indicate like overeating, like gluttony, or maybe even drinking too much. And again, if you feel that you are doing something destructive because you're unhappy with your job, then that is one of those signs that I'm talking about, that maybe it's unbearable at this point. The advisor, what's coming in, is the Star card. So within this 3-month period, there may be something that is almost like serendipitous. Oh, speaking of serendipity, now I don't know the actual date. I think it might be May 10th that the North Node enters Leo. And that's during this time period, you guys. That the North Node is your soul's mission, but as a transiting influence, it can speak to you meeting up with destiny, okay? And what's really nice about this particular transit is that it's going to have a harmonious angle to Jupiter, which is currently retrograding until June. So the North Node travels backwards. It's always like, you know, like a retrograde planet or something. So it right now is in the very early degrees of Virgo, and it's going to be going into the 29th degree of Leo, I believe on May 10th. And so Jupiter at that point, I don't know, maybe Jupiter will be in the teens, so it's probably not going to be anywhere near a conjunction, but at some point later in the summer, they should be very close to one another in degree points. And that can be very fortunate for us as a whole. And maybe I should say me personally, because I'm a Sagittarian, so I'm a fire sign and friendly to both of those planets, to both of those signs. And so are you, being that Leo is your sign, and Libra forms a sextile to Leo. So this could be a very good period of time for you, the coming year, with this North Node in your own sign. So you might have a meeting, how do they say that? A meeting with destiny or something along those lines. And that could be what the Star card is kind of alluding to, that your faith in life is restored. You may have kind of come out of the fire whether it's emotionally or... I don't think that... This doesn't suggest material problems, like money problems. This is more of an emotional thing, I think, that you are feeling dissatisfied and maybe feeling empty, and now you feel that sense of spirit guiding you once again. And I told you that I picked an extra card because the outcome represents the dark night of the soul, the Nine of Swords. Well, I don't know, is that too overly dramatic? What I mean is that this is a card of insomnia and sleepless nights, thinking too much, worry. And it's funny, I should have said the star card represents Aquarius. So if there's an Aquarius person who's actually, and that's your opposite sign, by the way, who's not a positive influence in your life, then this card may be saying, look into that. Why are you allowing this person to torment you? But it can just be just like that Five of Pentacles, and you have like some positive cards, like the Two of Cups and the Nine of Pentacles. It could be that within your consciousness, you're fighting two battles. You're fighting the battle of what ifs, and I'm afraid of change, and you are having all this good stuff coming towards you. So it's okay, we all get like that. Even when we really want something, once we get it, it can be very unnerving in a way. Sometimes we're so used to bad things happening that we have a hard time accepting good things happening. Actually, that's also could be what the Nine of Cups is saying. Is, do you feel like you're deserving of good? And, with the Star card, it could be like, you have your wish fulfilled, the thing you've always wanted to have happen, and then you still feel this sense of anxiety because maybe you just don't feel like you deserve it. And that's kind of like an inside job. Nobody can convince you of that. I certainly can't. So it's very interesting. It's like the flip side of a good thing happening. And so I picked an extra card, the Three of Cups, and this is a card of celebration. So what it seems to be suggesting to me is that rather than fall back into your old patterns, like the Five of Pentacles and the Nine of Swords, it's time to totally embrace the good things that are coming your way. And, call people up, tell them that it's time for a party, and that you, are here to claim your good. You're not going to reject the wonderful things that are in store for you, or that have already transpired for you, Leo, and that, seem to be suggesting that they're on their way during this year of having the North Node in your own sign. This may be a very important time for you. So I wish you all the best and good luck to you. Take care of yourselves. Bye.